A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to this Sunday's edition of Primetime News, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudannaik. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
KDK, the leader in indoor air quality. KDK, the reliable fan.
Indian fishermen continue to encroach into Sri Lankan waters. Discussions underway to secure a $200 million credit line from Pakistan. Opposition leader assures that he will stand up for the rights of labourers. Anurukumara Dissanayake speaks on corruption in Sri Lanka. Will the continuous supply of power from the barge-mounted power plant lead to a power crisis again?
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
KDK, the leader in indoor air quality. KDK, the reliable fan.
And now the stories in detail. Indian fishermen have begun to illegally engage in fishing activities in Sri Lankan waters. Fishing associations point out that about 100 Indian fishing vessels were spotted in the seas of Sulipuram and Vadamarachi last night.
The Indian vessels had damaged fishing equipment of Sri Lankan fishermen. The Point Pedro, Supamadam and Mailati fishing associations pointed out that Indian fishing vessels had damaged fishing equipment of fishermen belonging to their associations. Sri Lankan fishermen had come back to shore empty-handed because of this situation. Meanwhile, fishing equipment of fishermen who went to sea from Sulipuram in Jaffna had also been damaged by Indian fishermen. Fishermen had lodged a complaint at the Vatukote police. The leader of the fisheries associations of the Jaffna district, Annalingam Annasara, convened a media briefing yesterday and spoke about the two fishermen who went missing after going to sea from Vatirayan in Vadamarachi East. Those two fishermen have not yet been found. When they went out to sea that day, our boats had to turn back as there were Indian trawlers fishing there. Their nets were caught on the Indian trawlers and the nets were damaged. These nets have been brought to the shore. We believe that the boat that these two fishermen were sailing on would have sunk after colliding with one of the Indian trawlers. When fishermen in Jaffna set out to sea in search of the missing fishermen, this is what they saw. The fishermen pointed out that these Indian trawlers were spotted about 2 kilometers off the shores of Vatirayan in Vadamarachi East into our seas, and this issue will not aggravate any further. In addition to this, the fishermen associations in India are engaging in discussions with Fishermen Association in Sri Lanka on implementing a practical solution to this issue. All of these matters must be discussed. We hope to find a long-lasting solution to this issue. This is how a fisherman in Jaffna explained the particulars about this issue that is often misunderstood. Honorable President, Prime Minister, you secured loans from India and now Indian fishermen come and destroy all of our fishing equipment. They are now even taking away our lives. You are living a happy life. You went with the begging bowl to India and now people are dying in the north. Tamil politicians in the north have abandoned us.
Against the backdrop where Indian fishermen are looting marine resources in the Sea of Sri Lanka, the country is set to receive a credit line of $1.5 billion from India to resolve the dollar shortage. The decision was recently reached following a meeting between Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa and India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. The credit line will be used to import essential food items and medicine. The credit line was approved soon after the Trincomalee oil tank farm deal with India.
ඉන්දියාවට ගියා ණය ඉල්ලන්න.
He visited India to request for a loan. The oil tanks that belonged to the country for the past 19 years were given away to India. Lands were given away. The container terminal at the port was given away. They provided fuel for foreign ships. Today they are showing us that they have the upper hand since they are supplying fuel to us. The energy minister says that fuel will be given in case of an emergency. They signed the agreement and told us not to worry. Now they are not even giving us a drop of fuel. In the future, India will be deciding when we will have access to power and energy. India will decide when we can have transport. The Minister of Power yesterday said that although the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation does not release fuel, the Energy Minister has agreed to obtain fuel from India. They are letting India take over our country and her people. As a result of all of this, we could be even heading towards a famine.
අපිට සාගින්දරේ මැරෙන යුගයකට විඳවන යුගයකටයි මේ තල්ලු කරන්නේ.
Amid allegations that India is attempting to acquire Sri Lanka's resources by hook or by crook, the full implementation of the 13th Amendment that was introduced to Sri Lanka by India is the focus of the demands put forward by a number of Tamil political parties. Recently, leaders of 7 political parties wrote to the Indian Prime Minister through the Indian ambassador to Sri Lanka, requesting the Indian government to pressure the Sri Lankan government to fully implement the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. The Tamil National People's Front had expressed their opposition against this decision. The party continued their protest against the implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution.
A group of Tamil parties who are abiding by the orders of India are requesting for the implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution that was rejected since 1987. The government wants to show that an amendment to the Constitution has been passed with the support of Tamil people. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa made a statement 2 weeks ago that a new constitution will be brought at the end of January or at the beginning of February. Provincial councils have no power in a unitary state. India is inviting Sri Lanka to leave China and come to them. They are inviting Sri Lanka to frame these issues within a unitary state. All the parliamentarians representing Tamil political parties except the Tamil National People's Front are going to support the government when they table this new constitution in parliament.
அந்த ஒற்றையாட்சிக்கு கீழே மாகாண சபைக்கு எந்த விதமான அதிகாரம் இல்லை இருக்கவும் முடியாதுன்றதும் உங்களுக்கு தெரியும்.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka is negotiating a $200 million credit line from Pakistan to import rice, cement and medicinal drugs. Minister Bandula Gunawardena had held discussions on this matter during his visit to Pakistan. Reports indicate that the import is to be done via the Ministry of Trade and the draft of the agreement is soon to be presented to the Ministry of Finance. Not only Pakistan, but as a result of our discussions with a number of countries including India, we have been able to benefit to the tune of about $2.4 billion. We received about $250 million from Bangladesh, and we are in discussion with China to import 1 million tons of rice before the new year. We are holding discussions with all our friendly nations.
The Foreign Minister also refuted claims that many government ministers are visiting the north only because the United Nations Human Rights Council sessions are around the corner.
This morning I saw some comments, particularly in the electronic media, to the effect that ministers are rushing to the north on the eve of the Geneva sessions of the Human Rights Council. Now this has been prominently said in the media. This is totally unfair. It is also untrue. This visit has nothing whatsoever to do with the upcoming sessions of the Human Rights Council in Geneva.
Time for a short commercial break. Stay with News First. We will be right back.
News First. Main sponsor.
Sun all-purpose disinfectant spray.
Providing science education to children in far-flung villages of the country. Tech Bus.
Organized by Newsfirst and Slit Institute.
Tech Bus.
Main sponsor.
Slit Knowledge University, challenging convention and redefining education.
Welcome back here with News First. A ceremony to confer Venerable Thihagoda Baddiyathera as the new Chief Judicial Sanganayaka of the Western Province was held today.
The ceremony was held at the Alhena Sri Ratanasara Temple in Gothatua today. Venerable Thihagoda Baddiyathera is the chief incumbent of the Alhena Sri Ratanasara Temple and the Kirlapana Sri Bauddhaloka Temple. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, former President Maithripala Sirisena and political leaders of other opposition parties were present at the event. The Sannas Patre was presented to the chief incumbent by former President Maithripala Sirisena. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa presented the Vision Patra to Venerable Thihagoda Baddiyathera.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says the Samagi Jana Balawegya is ready to stand up against the oppression of workers.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa expressed these views during a rally held in Kakirawa. Motorcycle parade was also held before the meeting.
පියවර ගන්නට යනවලු වෘත්තීය සමිති ව්‍යාපාර මර්ධනය කරන්න. වැඩ වර්ජන කරන අවස්ථා ඒ වගේම
The government is to take steps to suppress trade unions. They say that they will stop all protests and strikes. The government is taking anti-democratic steps. The sugar scam, coconut oil scam and the garlic scam took place in the country. These people have already sold many national assets, including the port, which belong to the people of this country. Now they're trying to bring a law making it illegal for trade unions to stand up against the sale of national assets. They're going to make it illegal to speak on behalf of the country and speak on behalf of the people. My friends, the current leader must realize that the people of this country have their democratic rights. If they are setting our power plants in the shade of night, do labourers of our country not have the right to speak against it? The rights of labourers cannot be curtailed in any way. They cannot be limited. I would like to state that we will peacefully take the streets to protect the rights of labourers.
අපි කංකරු අයිතිය සුරක්ෂා කරන්නට සාමකාමීව මහ පාරට වහිනවා කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියන්න කැමතියි.
Speaking at a conference in the Gampaha district, the Jatika Janabalawegya highlighted issues surrounding corruption in the country. Representatives of the district executive council and party representatives attended the event.
If
the leader of the country is a thief, if he is corrupt, if the team that is ruling the country is corrupt, that country has no future. So firstly, we will create a leadership free from corruption. We have assured you that we will recover the money that was stolen by these corrupt leaders. These leaders were bought over for money. We showed these in parliament with check numbers. We showed that Chinese companies distributed $6.5 million during the 2015 elections. If these leaders have sold themselves for money, how can we have a foreign policy? These corrupt leaders who have sold themselves for money help their benefactors build this country according to their strategic interests. The southern container terminal is a strategic asset for the Chinese. The Hambantota port is a strategic asset for the Chinese. The east container terminal is a strategic asset for India. The Keravalapitia power plant is a strategic asset of the United States. The oil tanks is a strategic asset of India. Those were not constructed according to our economic plans. We fell victim to their economic plans that suit their geopolitical interests. None of these are our plans. These plans were made after our leaders were bought over for money. We have no diplomatic relations with foreign countries. These are all deals and agreements.
Farmers lamented that the fertilizer crisis has caused a reduction in harvest, not only in cultivation such as paddy and vegetables, but also in export-driven plantations as well.
Harvesting has begun in the north as well as in the east. This is Kenya in Trincomalee. Farmers claim that they have not received a fair income for their produce.
බෑග් 75ක් වගේ තිබුණා. දැන් ඇවිල්ලා 23ක් 24ක් බෑග් එකන්නේ. අපිට වන්දි දෙනවා කියලා කියනවා. නමුත් ඒක ලැබෙයිද කියලා අපිට විශ්වාස කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ.
මේ පාර ওই තියෙන වීමිටි 30ක් විතරවා තියෙන්නේ. ගිය වේදන්ගත් 75ක් අපිට ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. අතින් පාඩුයි. යූරියා නැති එක තමයි වරද ඔක්කොම තියෙන්නේ. අර ගඳ ගන්න පොරක් දිල්ලේ ගැති වෙලකුත් නැහැ. ගෝයන් ගහන්නේ මේ නියරෙන් උසරින් නැහැ. ගෝයන් ගහ.
Agrarian movements in Seruvilla, Kantale and Trincomalee say that farmlands that were cultivated using chemical fertilizer have produced a full harvest.
දකුණු අත පැත්තෙන් තියෙන්නේ යූරියා ගහලා තියෙන ගොවි බිමේ තත්ත්වයේ එකම දවසේ වපුරපු කුඹුරු දෙක මේකේ දැන් මේ පීදෙනවා මේ කුඹුරේ තව එක ගොයන් ගස් 10ක් පීදිලා නැහැ එකම B වර්ගයේ එකම දවසේ වපුරලා මෙන්න එක කස් වෙන්න මෙන්න එක කස් වෙන්න.
An unusual increase in worms was seen on the potato farms in Uvaparanagama Valley Mada.
එක ගඩියක්වත් ගන්න දෙයක් නෑ මේ වගේ. ඔක්කොම තියෙන්නේ පණු ගහලා තියෙන්නේ මේ කොම්පොස්ට් දාලා තමයි මේවා හදන්නේ. රජෙන් දුන්නේ මේවා.
Farmers say the government will have to allocate large sums of money to import potato in the near future.
මේ කාබනි පොහොර දැම්මාම එකකින් එනවා පණුවක් කම්බිලි පණුවක් මේ අකරය අර්ථාපල උගා කරලා තියෙන කොටුවෙන් හොඳ අල කිලෝ 5ක්වත් ගන්න බෑ.
අපි අවුරුද්දක් ජීවත් වෙන්නේ මේ වගාව කරලා. ඉතින් ඊට පස්සේ දැන් මේක කාටද විකුණන්නේ? ඒවා මිනිස්සු කන්නේ නැහැ හරක් කන්නේ නැහැ. මේ බලන්න මේ පණුව බෝ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ කොම්පොස්ට් පොහොර නිසා. මේ කොම්පොස්ට් වල තමයි මේ බෝ වෙන්නේ.
මේවත් මට වන්දියක් හරි ඕනේ. නැත්තම් මම හතරම් බඩ ඔක්කොම බැංකුවේ තියා තමයි මේ කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
Who created crises in Sri Lanka? Here's what the politicians had to say.
The government says none of this would have happened if not for the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 didn't do this. This happened because the government does not have policies. They have zero plans. They come up with an idea in the night and they try to implement it in the morning. Someone in a high position once said that Gotabaya Rajapaksa can be one of the greatest leaders in the world because he is the first president to introduce a 100% organic farming system in the history of the world. Now they are saying, never mind, it's okay. Import chemical fertilizer itself. That is what they should have done from the very beginning. Now what has happened? Fertilizer companies don't have chemical fertilizer to supply to the market. The country doesn't have dollars to import it either. And the people don't have money to purchase them at these exorbitant prices. People pray for it to rain on time, but we don't have leaders that take correct decisions on time. Now the economy is about to collapse. The government wanted to shift from chemical to organic fertilizer, saying that people's kidneys are getting affected. If that is the case, then please place a tag on all Chinese rice packs, warning that people's kidneys will be affected if they eat this rice. Because that was the government's reasoning behind importing only organic fertilizer. Then the big shots in the government should import food. If not, the big shots in the government should import food that was cultivated using only organic fertilizer.
මිනිසුන්ට කවන්න ඕන රසායනික පොර නැති ඒවානේ. ගොඩක් දෙනා මේක කොලේ වහලා ගැහුවා.
They played a double game. They didn't understand the reality. They didn't understand what the real crisis was. They neglected the things that mattered and concentrated on other things. If someone says that these crises have emerged as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, that is a blatant lie. The price of rice in the market is not the price set by the government. There is a shortage in goods in every product that has a controlled price on it. We cannot come out of this situation until the government is in power. They say that they will import food. What a joke. We don't even have dollars to import essential goods. Now they are saying that they'll get their act together in the next 3 years. Does the president have an action plan for the next 3 years? Well, they should. They should have a plan to come out of this economic crisis. They gave away 5,000 rupees each using the Samruddhi Fund. Have they allocated that in the current budget? No, they have not. It took them 24 hours to reach a decision to completely ban chemical fertilizer and move towards organic fertilizer. That decision led to the downfall of our entire agricultural system. How many gazettes did they reverse to control prices of essential goods? They had to reverse all those gazettes because they had zero plans. The central bank governor quickly released dollars when importers complained, saying that their containers are stuck at the port. They have no plan to increase the dollar reserves. The Minister of Trade goes on joyrides every morning to check the prices of fruits and vegetables. And all of a sudden, he goes to meet Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan. He has gone to Lahore. He has gone to beg for rice because he doesn't have a plan. How can they run this country for the next 3 years when they don't even have a plan to run this country for the next 3 months? They have ruined this country during the last 2 years that they were in power.
Although Sri Lanka is trying to solve its economic crisis with the support of foreign nations, the power crisis in the country remains unsolved. The Ceylon Electricity Board says that if the barge-mounted power station at the Colombo port continues to generate electricity, the fuel required for it will be insufficient even for a day. The Ceylon Electricity Board's additional general manager Andrew Navamani said that even if the Sapugaskanda power plant continues to generate electricity, the fuel will be sufficient only for today. The Yugadanavi power plant in Keravalla also possesses fuel sufficient only for today. However, the Ceylon Electricity Board said the fuel at the Karanithissa power plant will be sufficient for another 4 days. A single power station at the Sapugaskanda power plant is currently inactive due to the lack of furnace oil. Andrew Navamani says the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is currently issuing daily stocks of fuel and that the Ceylon Electricity Board expects to receive the required stocks tomorrow as well. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology said rain cannot be expected until April. Will the crisis intensify?
Government Information Department confirmed that 1,056 COVID-19 cases were reported today. Now, this is the first time that the daily COVID-19 cases surpassed 1,000 in several months. The body of the female who drowned at the Garandiala Falls in Bandaravella was recovered this morning. Accordingly, the death toll from the incident increased to 5.
A group of 11 people were bathing at the Garandiala Falls. This was after they had attended an almsgiving in Atampitia. 4 others who jumped into the water to save one person who drowned were also reported missing later.
He raised his hand as if he had fallen into a ditch. They were on a rock. They were all holding hands. 4 of them jumped into the water to save one of them who was drowning, but all of them drowned as well.
Three bodies were recovered yesterday during operations conducted by the area residents and the police. The body of the 22-year-old girl was recovered this morning. The other deceased people, aged 19, 21 and 23, were identified as residents of Atampita and Lindula.
Several incidents of drowning are reported every year. People could not go on trips during the recent past due to travel restrictions that were imposed due to COVID-19. When the travel restrictions were lifted, people started traveling to many areas across the country. Drowning incidents like this are reported due to people acting irresponsibly.
An average of 500 deaths are reported due to drowning every year. More than 37 people have drowned so far this year.
Newsfirst continued to caution the general public on risking their lives by going to bathe at various locations in the country. However, the number of drownings reported from across the island as a result of people bathing at unsafe locations continue to increase. Security forces and other personnel involved in operations to recover the bodies of those who drown at these locations do so while risking their own lives in the process. Think twice before you risk your life for a moment of joy. Exercising caution could save your life as well as the lives of your loved ones.
Sri Lanka Life Saving conducted a special program for the Sarvodaya movement to train youth for relief support during an event of a national disaster.
The life-saving training program was organized for Sarvodaya youth by Sri Lanka Life Saving. Youth representatives from 12 districts in the country were selected and trained for 4 consecutive days in training to extend support for water-related accidents, natural disasters, refugee camp management, first aid and events of natural disasters. The training program took place at the Mount Lavinia beach.
North Korea has conducted what is thought to be its biggest missile launch.
During the day, failing to concentrate on your academic work or your work commitments are also features of depressive disorder.
What should you do if you have depression or there is reason to believe that you have depression?
It is very important that everyone is well aware of the symptoms in themselves as well as the family members and quickly go to a doctor and take treatment. When we talk about ways to treat depressive disorder, there are recommended techniques which are proven by clinical trials all around the world. So all these clinical trials conducted in the world are considered when guidelines are made. First is psychotherapy, talking therapy, but it changes how we think.
Moving on to sports news now, Rafael Nadal won a record 21st Grand Slam men's title in the most stunning fashion, fighting back from 2 sets down to beat Russia's Daniil Medvedev in a classic Australian Open final.
Joel, who do you want to call? You ask whoever you like.
Open champion Medvedev